Hey there, gardeners. This is Shannie from Botanical Interest. Let's take a tour of the property, see how things are growing and how they did after that historically cold winter. The winter of 25-26 was brutal. We had so many killing freezes this year. I live in a neighborhood that has quite a few mango trees and avocado trees, and even the cold hardy avocados, they got bitten pretty good. So the landscape looks kind of brutal right now. But the upshot to having a really cold winter is we just got our pest populations seriously knocked back. Central Florida gardening is marked by things like extreme heat and extremely high pest and disease pressure. So having several cold, freezing nights over this winter was really, really helpful in killing off. We have a whole host of different pests in my area, so I'm really hoping that the pest pressure is at least a little bit lower this spring. We will see, we will keep track. Fingers crossed for a nice year. Hopefully we'll get a great crop of melons, we'll get a really nice spring tomato crop. We are looking forward to all of that. First, let's check out how things are doing now, and then we'll go on a little bit about my plans for the spring. Behind me are my grow bags. Now, this was a huge success for the winter. All of these were totally great, even on those nights where it got to be down to 19 degrees Fahrenheit. I did use a little bit of coastal hay mulch to cover these plants when it got down into the teens, because that's really, really testing it, even for these cold hardy crops. But these are a great choice for the wintertime in Central Florida, because even if we do get a really hard winter like we just did, you're still going to be able to count on these things. And I am a huge fan of cold weather loving crops. I love things like beets, carrots, lettuces, arugula. This year, arugula has been fabulous because arugula and kale can take lots of cold. All right, let's look at the tomato field. This got absolutely annihilated on our first freeze back in, let's say, right around the new year. The plants were about 7 feet tall and completely covered in oodles of beautiful fruit. And I attempted to cover them. I really didn't want to lose them, but there was nothing I could do. It got down to 19 degrees in this field. So covering them with some frost cloth did not cut it. They died anyway. The tomato plants completely died out. I pulled them out, and I have been allowing the soil to go fallow and mellow out over the winter. I did cover it with some coastal hay to kind of preserve the topsoil and not have it blow off, but I did not attempt to cover crop because I was planning on replanting that field fairly shortly after I lost it. So I didn't want to waste time with a cover crop, so it just got covered with some straw mulch. This was a really challenging area for me because I just couldn't decide exactly what was going to go in next. I spent a couple of weeks in deep mourning over those tomatoes, and I didn't want to think at all about what was going to go in here next. So I've started to kind of rebuild a plan, but the tomato field was a bit of a heartbreak. That said, I did still get a big harvest from my fall tomatoes because they had started producing and I had gotten a decent harvest before they were killed off. But it was just sad to see that I could have gotten so much more if I had protected them. This experience has really opened my eyes that I might be looking at putting in something like a high tunnel here because I really, really value my tomato crop. And I don't want to lose it on a random early frost in December because they're only kind of just getting going in December. And I had planted a few kale in this row of tomatoes, and you can see the tomatoes are completely gone, but the kale lives on. The kale froze multiple times this year with no problem. Brassicas, or cabbage family members, love the cold, so they were absolutely fine. I've been enjoying kale salads all winter. No tomatoes, but plenty of kale. Since I lost my tomatoes so prematurely and I put in such a nice Florida weave system with my T-posts, I am going to replant with tomatoes this season. Now, I am gonna do some significant amending with some worm compost, some well-rotted compost, some worm castings, and some crab meal. I'm hoping that's gonna make a buffer against any diseases that might have built up in the soil, but this is one of those decisions that I'm making against my better judgment, but I really wanna get my tomatoes in this year, and I don't have a whole lot of other spaces that are big enough for what I want to do. So this one's a bit of a gamble, but I'm feeling pretty confident. I haven't grown tomatoes year after year after year This will only be the second season, so I think I'm okay. I have the Florida weave here with the T-posts and the nylon string. And then I also have the conduit. I made it with EMT conduit and elbows, and I just do a single leader system with the nylon string. I can't choose which one I like better because I really like both of them. The EMT conduit looked really cool. I will say that the single leader system looks so neat and tidy. I mean, I felt like a real professional. It was so hard to choose between the two. Honestly, they both look beautiful. Okay, behind me is the onion patch. My onions have been totally unscathed from the cold because onions do pretty darn well when it gets cold. Now, I had a friend who covered her onion plants when they were quite small in heavy wood chip mulch, and she lost them. And I covered mine, and mine were maybe a little bit bigger because I think I planted mine earlier, and they were covered in straw mulch and they made it. And I think the difference may have been the weight of the mulch. So keep that in mind. You don't want to super weigh down your plants when you're mulching. I can't definitively say that was the difference between mine living and hers dying, but that is my suspicion as the gardener. I do think that the smaller, more tender plants do need a lighter weight mulch. So those onions are going to be ready in about May. They're looking great. I have been really mindful about keeping them consistently watered and giving them lots of organic fertilizer because onions love to get fed over and over again. They are heavy feeders. Okay, here is a actual visual representation of what it looks like to roll the dice in the garden, because I put these potato seed pieces and we ended up getting many cold snaps after I planted them. I was hoping that we were out of the woods with the coldest of the cold because we had already had multiple freezes at that point. I was dead wrong. We were in for the coldest winter in a long time. So these potato plants did weather several freezes and they were fine. They did get, you could see that they got charred and knocked back, but they're coming back from that. I will definitely compare and contrast the harvest from the plants that got no frost damage to the ones that did, and I will check in with you about that later. My friend David Scanlon over at Practical Plants, he sells this cold treated garlic, it's vernalized garlic. This garlic has had a fake winter, it's been put in the fridge, and now it's planted out, it's sprouted nicely, it weathered plenty of cold weather. We know garlic loves cold. This is a variety called Enchilium Red. It's known to do well here. You always want to go for a soft neck garlic. They can take these milder winters a little bit better. Hard neck garlics, they just want a lot more cold. Soft neck variety Enchilium Red, looking beautiful. Definitely excited to harvest those. I used to free range my chickens and ducks until they destroyed every garden on the property, and that is despite the fact that I had fenced up my gardens. So I decided to pen them up, and they still have a huge chicken yard. It's massive. But that's one of the big changes that's happened around here. We also built a chicken tractor. I'm gonna do a tour of my chicken tractor, I promise. Next stop on the tour is my raised bed garden. This is my veggie patch for the winter, and I could not believe how rough a year we had in here. And that was two factors. That was one, the chickens busted in a million times, and they kept, over the fall, they kept eating my garden back. I would put up fencing, I would make the fences taller, they would still find ways in. So they really delayed my fall garden. And then just as things were starting to turn around in the winter, it got really cold and it stayed cold, and then we had many frosts. And the thing with gardening over the winter in Florida is it's a fabulous time to garden. It's arguably the best time to garden. But when you have quite a bit of sustained cold, the microbial activity in the soil starts to slow down, and therefore the growth of the plant slows down. So I have got some pretty underdeveloped action going around here in my raised beds that has been kind of slowly lingering on all winter. And these plants have been getting fed, they've been getting consistent water, but it's just been a cool year, and so things have not been taking off like a rocket like they usually do. So my gardens look a little bit, just a little behind. But I have had a fabulous year for arugula. My peas are taking off. I have so much dill. My one dill plant has been absolutely fantastic. I plugged pansies in all over my garden to give some color. Brassicas were rough this year. Not all brassicas, but my heading brassicas, like my broccoli and my cabbage, they were eaten multiple times by the chickens. They just kept coming in just to get after that cabbage. I was going Mr. McGregor insane over those cabbages. I just wanted a darn cabbage. And so then finally, after the birds were properly penned up, I replanted, and then they got really knocked back in the cold. Again, brassicas are a crop that are tolerant of quite a bit of cold, but when we're talking multiple nights in the teens and 20s, that's a lot to ask for any plant. So my brassicas are just lingering, slow, not happy right now. Next fall, I'm definitely gonna get my brassicas in a little bit earlier so they can get a bit of a jump from the fall before things really start to slow down for the winter. This is my chicken tractor. Supposed to be putting birds in here, but it ended up getting plastic put on it and becoming a makeshift emergency greenhouse when we realized that it was going to be in the 20s, and some of the crops that are sort of marginal that we have in our nursery needed to be covered post haste. So I turned this chicken tractor into a greenhouse. All I had to do was throw a big piece of 6 mil or whatever greenhouse plastic over it, and we cinched down the bottom, and it made actually a wonderful greenhouse. So I was able to protect some of my citrus and my avocados, things that were expected to do fine if we got into the 30s occasionally, but we were getting into the 20s here and starting to really worry that we were gonna have major loss in our nursery. So in the next few days here, as we say goodbye to winter, we're going to take all those plants out of that chicken tractor and actually put some birds in it. Behind me, these are all the guava. Might not live. It may come back. The guavas are pretty cold hardy, but this one really got rocked. So this is one of the saddest views on the property, but I know that nothing's really dead. It's all going to come back. It's just a matter of patience and just kind of avoiding eye contact for a little while. But yeah, bananas are one of those things when they're looking good with a rack on, they look fabulous. They make your property look tropical and amazing, but when they get hit by cold, they look really sad and they make your place look kind of raggedy. And here is our mango tree. Ouch, this one hurt because you can see if you look closely, it was covered in flowers. We were supposed to get a bunch of mangoes this year, and instead we're just praying that the plant is alive down there. This was such a rough year that the best thing we could do, and we covered this tree. By the way, this tree was completely covered in plastic. We completely covered this tree with a frame and greenhouse plastic. We did our very best to save it, but it was just so cold for such a long period of time. That is pretty devastating when it comes to a mango. But we did manage to wrap the graft union where the tree was grafted, and we are hoping that at least if it does live, that it was not killed below the graft union, so we'll still get the nice, tasty mango variety that we intended to have. Thanks for taking this tour with me today. I will be checking in monthly for my What to Grow monthly videos, as well as monthly garden check-ins. So just cross your fingers for me that next month we have a lot more vibrant green plants to look at. Happy gardening!